What do the Lakers have to do in order to limit Ja Morant's effectiveness? Paul George is complaining about the Clippers' playoff schedule, and Cody Bellinger returns to Dodger Stadium, and tears flowed from one man. Good morning, I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It is April 15th, 2023. It is such an interesting day that USC football is having its spring game, and that didn't even crack the top 3 stories of the day. So we will talk about that as well. But if you like the content we put out about LA sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comment. Lovely weekend out in SoCal. Now, before we go through the news and notes, we'll look at the scoreboard. Chicago 8, Dodgers 2. I think it's a little early still to worry about Noah Syndergaard. He only allowed 3 of the runs. It was the bullpen that once again blew up. Hint, hint, Andre Jackson. But Syndergaard is 0-2. I would also suggest that the Dodgers team hitting isn't quite there yet. Don't panic. 2 weeks into the year, LA is 500 and just a game out of first place. Whatevs. Meanwhile, today, Chicago is playing the Dodgers again. Not exactly a favorable matchup for the boys in blue. Michael Grove is 0-1 with a 14.73 ERA. Jamison Talion, 0-2, 7 ERA. The balls should be a-flying over at the Ravine tonight. So how exactly do you contain Ja Morant? He is absolutely terrific. I love watching him play. He's arguably the best player in the game right now. You could make that argument, and I wouldn't laugh at you. On February 28th, alone against the Lakers, he dropped 28 points in the third quarter of a game alone. Now, I've been reading a lot of suggestions, a lot of different matchups. There appears to be a common thread. The best suggestion that I've been reading has been not to fight over the pick in the pick and roll. If you set a pick and the defender has a choice, he either has to chase the guy over the pick or slide underneath. It is the best option in this case not to fight over the pick, because doing so, Morant is extremely quick. You're basically giving the man a head start on a path to the hoop against presumably the guy that switches off, which is probably going to be Anthony Davis. He'll beat Anthony Davis. Look, Ja Morant is quicker than pretty much anybody on the court, but you at least want to give yourself a shot to keep Morant from driving, to basically try and make him pull up at the three-point line. So the best option is sliding under the pick and possibly getting Morant to shoot a 3. Now, the people who are in line to D-up on Ja Morant would actually probably start with Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves also draws a lot of charges. Jared Vanderbilt is a possibility as well. And if neither of those work, if they want to keep showing Morant different looks, then you're talking about Troy Brown Jr. So not LeBron. They want to save up his energy. You're looking at Reeves, Vanderbilt, and Brown. The Lakers were in trouble during the play-in game. We don't deny that. They were down by 15 in the second half. But what went wrong for Minnesota is actually a possibility as to what could go wrong for the Grizzlies in this series. Karl Anthony Towns got in foul trouble for the T-Wolves. With Anthony Towns out of the game, the Lakers outscored Minnesota by 26 points. Red flag, red flag, red flag for Memphis. If the Lakers can get Jaren Jackson Jr. in foul trouble, which, by the way, is a distinct possibility because he is a terrific defender, but he's also very physical. If they do, the Grizzlies cannot summon Steven Adams or Brandon Clark off the bench. Both are out for the series with injuries. Meanwhile, talking injuries, Dennis Schroeder missed Friday's practice for the Lakers. He was gimping around during the play-in game a little bit. Darvin Ham called it a precautionary move, hinting strongly that Schroeder is going to be available. Fast forward to the off-season for the Lakers. Just for kicks. There is one problem that has allegedly been decided on, according to The Athletic. They are going to exercise an option on Jared Vanderbilt's contract. This move was an obvious one to make. The guy stepped in. He immediately was a defensive presence. He boosted the Lakers since the trade deadline to the second best defensive efficiency team in the NBA. He's only going to make about $4.7 million next year. That's not even the contract you would give in one of those salary cap exception contracts where you can give $5 million. He's not even making that. Keeping him at 4.7 is obvious. But I got to tell you, looking back, it's extremely strange. Vanderbilt is becoming beloved in Los Angeles. That guy couldn't find a role in either Minnesota or Utah. What gives? I've been hyping up, it's not a prediction, but I have been hyping up how I believe the Lakers are probably going to pull the upset in Memphis because of the injuries to the Grizzlies bigs. I'm being honest with you. I've been reading a lot about the Clippers and the Suns. I have no idea who to pick. I really don't. For the primary reason I would say is probably Paul George. He said he will not play until his knee feels close to 100%. Fine. I'm not calling the man a Jake. The guy was basically had the entire team on his back while Kawhi was puttering around with his injury. So I don't want to clown him for that. But what I do want to clown him, though, for is on his little podcast, and everybody's got to have a podcast, right? He launches a bunch of F-bombs and a bunch of bull bleeps about the NBA playoff schedule making. The Clippers-Suns series is the only one where there is only 1 day off between all games. There's not 2 days off between any of the games. So according to George, the league is, quote, effing, not he didn't say effing killing them. F this, F that, F the schedule, F. And I hate this because I wanted to believe that Paul George had matured. Humbled. Since the days he was giving himself nicknames like Playoff P and stuff like that. But complaining about this? Ask the 1990s Chicago Bulls about the playoff scheduling. NBC's network contract twisted the arm of the NBA so that the Bulls were playing on Saturday and Sunday during the playoffs. There were no days off sometimes for the Bulls because NBC wanted to maximize their money by showing Michael Jordan on both weekend days. Dude, compared to Jordan and Pippen and the boys, you're getting off light. 1 day between games is not a bad schedule. Now, to me, this series, for the Clippers standpoint, is probably all about Kawhi Leonard. He's going to have to be a force on both ends of the court because it wouldn't be surprising to see him D'ing up on Kevin Durant. Yeah, this is not an enviable assignment. The scribes are dumb. I mean, I used to be a sports writer, and I realize that sometimes we're looking for the cheap byline, the cheap headline. Oh, it's Russell Westbrook versus Kevin Durant. They were teammates. They were at odds. There's no evidence that they were at odds over in Oklahoma City. But let's just hype up controversy. This is not about Russell Westbrook versus Kevin Durant. It isn't. This series is loaded with way more interesting question marks. How does Kevin Durant fit in with the Phoenix Suns? Remember, there was a blockbuster trade from Brooklyn. He hasn't played that many games in Phoenix. Does he fit into the Phoenix Suns' plans yet? Will George play at all? That is a way more interesting question than what Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant think of each other. You could even argue that on some level, the Clippers, despite the star power on the Phoenix roster, you could argue that the Clippers are the better offensive team. They're better from the perimeter. They're going to sink a lot of threes. They're an extremely efficient offensive team. And because of that, I'm still not comfortable suggesting who would win the series. It could literally go either way. I can totally get that. So no, this is not about feelings. And I hate it when sports writers try to hype up feelings. This is not about feelings. This is about matchups. This is about trying to maximize the offense because we know both teams can score. And maybe if Paul George was there, the Clippers would have a better defense. But we don't know. So it's hard to make a prediction. Speaking of being overly emotional, Cody Bellinger returned to Dodger Stadium last night. And the reason that I did not talk about it yesterday was because I wanted to see how everybody in the press reacted. Me, Cody Bellinger leaving the Dodgers for Chicago was inevitable. He was an MVP. He is not an MVP now. Matter of fact, he's about as far from being an MVP as you could possibly get. You could argue that if he wasn't so beloved in Los Angeles, another team might have demoted the guy to the minors. So Bellinger comes back, and the question was, who would start crying first? And the answer was obvious. It was Mr. Emotional, the LA Times' Bill Plaschke. And it's not enough that he starts weeping. Oh, no. It's not enough that the tears start flowing down on his keyboard. No, he's trying to twist the nipples of every Major League Baseball fan until you start shedding tears. Bellinger and the Dodgers both deserve blame for their inevitable split. This was a blunder along the lines of the breakup of Kobe and Shaq. He actually wrote that. He's comparing Cody Bellinger leaving to Kobe and Shaq being split. Kobe and Shaq won multiple titles, back to back for the Lakers. Cody Bellinger won one title with the Dodgers. This is not the same thing. In the slightest. They didn't even hate each other like Kobe and Shaq did when they were in LA. So Bill, it's not emotion. It's time for you to go to math class. Take a math class. Here's some math. 239, 165, 210. That was Cody Bellinger's batting average the last 3 years in Los Angeles. Does anybody want to guess what Bellinger is hitting at this moment? 239. Even Shaq was better at the free throw line than Cody Bellinger is at the plate. There's a really popular political commentator who likes to say that facts don't care about your feelings. A 165 batting average does not care about Bill Plaschke's feelings. Bellinger's career story I can tell you in 5 seconds. I'm a left-handed hitter with a pretty swing. I had shoulder surgery. I lost my swing. The end. And I'm not even trying to say this out of hatred for Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger is a handsome man. Cody Bellinger is a nice guy. I'm neither. Will Smith fell sick and was pulled from the lineup from yesterday's game. The Dodgers only had 2 catchers on the roster. Here's an odd little factoid. If Austin Barnes was hurt, who was the third catcher? It's Max Muncy. How much experience does Muncy have behind the plate? Glad you asked. None. So, yeah, there's that. USC cornerback Joshua Jackson Jr. has entered the transfer portal. He didn't play last year. He had a shoulder injury back in 2021, and that took away his entire 2022. Speaking of players from USC who have entered the transfer window, The Athletic says that former Trojans wide receiver Gary Bryant Jr. is one of the top 10 players in the portal. This is what happens. The USC wide receiver room is packed. Now, all eyes on the spring game last year were on Caleb Williams. Made sense, of course. We didn't know what we were going to be seeing from Lincoln Riley's offense. We know that now. We also know what the defense looked like last year. So all eyes on this spring game, in my opinion, should be on Anthony Lucas, the transfer defensive end from Texas A&M. He's lined up at end. He's lined up at defensive tackle. He's even gone out in pass coverage. Other transfers fighting for roles that you should keep an eye on include Jack Sullivan, a defensive end from Purdue. We've already spoken repeatedly about defensive lineman Keon Barrs from Arizona and Oklahoma State linebacker Mason Cobb. But if you do want to watch, it's best to go to the scrimmage at the Coliseum. That's free. As for TV, it's on the Pac-12 network, which is one of life's little cruelties because nobody has the Pac-12 network. The clunky history of USC and NIL collectives might be getting a little clearer. Just kidding, it's still a mess. Look, if you remember, USC had one it sponsored. We called it the Boulevard. That partnership fell apart completely in October. Then there was another one. A bunch of donors got together and put together something called Student Body Right. That one fell apart because the founder died. Now there's a collective called the Tommy Group, and finally there's another group, but we don't know what the hell it's called. The LA Times calls it Victory Formation. Twitter calls it the House of Victory. Well, nobody can get their story straight regarding NIL collectives. The Kings' Vladislav Gavrikov has a unique celebration. He pretends to hold a cell phone to his ear. Reporters desperate for anything colorful to write about want to know, who are you calling? He won't answer, probably because it's not a real phone, it's a finger and his thumb. And that's fine by me, because I'd like to remind the reporters the man only has 6 goals. He's a defenseman. Scoring is not his forte. Lighten up. I'm asking him to help keep the Oilers off the scoreboard, not light up the scoreboard. By the way, the Kings are still not giving injury updates on either Kevin Fiala or Gabe Vilardi's availability. The series starts on Monday. Finally, the Galaxy have waived defender Chase Gasper. He was added as a depth piece before last season, but he has not played at all this year due to an injured thigh. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread, because again, lovely day. Let me know what you think about the Lakers' shots against Memphis, or what is the important matchup that you see, Clippers versus Suns. And if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Corte El Queso production. Take care.